Hello everybody. This is a quick video on how to make stacks actually accept objects and basically make them use a little bit more than just your basic integer string like we did in the previous project. Now in our previous project, we created a stack, and because of the way Python works in general, a list is what this stack is based on. A stack is essentially just a list or an array with a bunch of rules on top that tell you the order in which things can come in and come out. In Java, C++, C Sharp, you have to define what items can go in your arrays. Whereas Python is a little bit loose with that definition. You just say, I need a list, and it will pretty much plug whatever it wants in there. If I want to plug integers, then they go in there. If I want to plug floats or strings, then they go in there. That makes it a little bit easier to program, also makes it a little bit easier to royally screw something up if things go in there you didn't mean to go in there, because it kind of takes everything. Now for us, we created this stack, and you see we've got our constructor, we've got our push function, which pushes the item into the stack. We got our pop function, which takes things off the stack. And then a little display, which will display the stack for me. And we just happen to push on a couple of numbers in this particular example I'm showing here. So I've got a little main function here, and I create a stack. I've set it to have 5 slots available in it. And here we go. We've got a couple of numbers that we're going to push in, take one out, that sort of thing. 10, 30, 40, 50, 60. At this point, the stack would be full. It can't accept a 70 because I've only set it for 5 slots. We pop off, and the 60 is the top, so that would go off. And at the end, it should display 40, 50, 50, 40, 30, 10, if this works correctly. So let's take a quick check. 50, 40, 30, 10. There we go. Now, an object is something that can contain several different variables. It really just depends on how we define it. So let's take a quick look at an object array I threw together. So this here is a box, and it's very simple. It just has one little bit of information in it, and that's just this dat1. And all we're going to do is create this object. You notice it doesn't have any functions or anything else on it. And I'm just going to make an array and plug these boxes in there. So in this case, I have my constructor for this class. Again, very simple. I create an array, or array list, if you will. Now, whatever I plug in there will go in there. So I create 2 objects, in this case a box, and that one is 0. Another box, and that one's 90. And all I have to do is simply just append these objects, and they'll go into the array, because the array in Python will pretty much accept anything. So I can plug them in. Now, I can print that information, and you'll see that displayed. Now, if we run it, we get 0 and 90. Those are the 2 things that I said to print. Now, if I take this off, and I try to run it, you'll see it just says, main dot box object at this location in the memory. This is a memory location, essentially, where this object is stored. So I don't really get much in the way of information there. Now, if I had gone up here and had there's a def __str thing you can do, that would override that, and I'd actually get whatever information I wanted to have printed out. Since I didn't put that here, that's why we have to do this. I'm basically printing out the very specific information that's on there. They each have a dat1. I'm telling it, this box, print the dat1. and there it goes. So there's not a lot to do to transition from objects in Python from your basic stuff when you're dealing with arrays, because it's already kind of set up to deal with that, for better or for worse. If we were in Java, C++, C#, like I said before, I would have to make like several changes to get this to work. The array isn't just an array, it would be an int array or a string array or an object array in this case. And then I have to change every little iteration where I'm basically talking about that or dealing with that. There'd be several different changes to make. Well, let's see how the changes work for the stack. So here's my stack that I created here. Now, this stack is set up to take objects. Or actually, is it set up to take objects? Let me double check here. No, okay. It is not. I'm opening the same stack. Hang on a second. Oop. Let me get the right one this time. Stack, okay. We will just have to, there it is, I think it's this one. There it is. All right, got the right file finally. This stack is set up to accept objects. In this example, above the stack, which is an object I created, I create another. There we go. Called a widget, just simple widget. There you go. Now for this, if we check over here, you'll see I just have the stack. I'm adding this object into my file. I can literally have as many of these objects as I need. If I want more, well then I can have more. I can have several objects in one file as long as I define them and space them out right. Now this works just like what we did before. You'll see I've got my information listed here. It's pretty much listed exactly the same way. We could have the little str thing listed if we needed to display stuff, but we'll check. Let's check and see what we have to change outside of doing this here. So my push function, or well, actually that's my constructor for the stack. That really doesn't need to change much. We still have max size, top list, all that's the same. We go to push. Well, the size is still going to deal with that. Now, pushing items onto my list. Now, I'm printing a little message here, and this is one thing I'll have to change. In this case, I'm pushing a number already, so it gets printed. If I don't have a dot number here in this particular example, then it will just say, just like before, pushing box, it'll say pushing widget at location blah blah blah. So this just lets me see the number that's getting pushed. If it's full, it doesn't happen, and if it isn't, then it puts it on the list, and that is exactly the same thing that happens over here. Top works kind of the same way. We remove the thing from the top. Remove the things from the top. Line that up a little better. Everything else kind of stays the same. Display is going to have to change a little bit here. Here we go. Everything else is kind of the same until we get to, of course, this print here. Because nothing changes as far as the structure is going. We're just putting an object in instead of a number. But instead of printing self.listCount, we print self.listCount number. So we're printing the number. Or if I had like a string function up here to print, I could just say self.list.count. I could leave it like that if I had that up there. But I'd have to have an extra bit of code in my function, or not my function, in my class up here. And then we'll go down here and we make a couple of widgets, push them on the stack and see what it has to say. So if I run this, it says my stack is 10 and 1,000. Well, the 1,000 got pushed on first. The 10 got pushed on second, so it got put on top. So it's there. It's in order. And that is how you would put objects on a stack. Again, fairly simple, nothing too difficult. There's not a huge amount of things to change. There are some other little caveats that I get into in other lectures, especially when you're dealing with objects. But this is essentially how that works. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.